Alright, the preseason madness is still there, but things make a little more sense now, right? Well, even if it doesn't, we're gonna go ahead and try to make it at least 1% clearer for you guys with some new builds. Welcome back to our channel. My name is Nathan Ng, and I'll be running through some new Korean builds for patch 10.24. For our question of the day, which recent balance change were you most happy to see recently? I was personally happy to see that they nerfed all of the Sunfire items. Tanks were doing way too much damage, and even now they're still pretty good. It wasn't even close to fair before, but at least now it kind of evens the playing ground a little bit. Let me know what you thought was the best change in the comments down below. Before we start the video, I want to let you guys know that we're having a Black Friday special over at ProGuides.com. You can get 50% off of our memberships. Just use the promo code Black Friday to redeem the discount. And with that all being said, let's go ahead and hop right into the video. First up in the top lane, he's back. Bruiser Fizz has made his return with a brand new set of items. Unlike our old friend, however, this version does build some AP, but builds some of the more valuable defensive items so it become extremely difficult to kill. First up, let's run through the runes and items. For runes, you're gonna want to run Grasp of Undying, Demolish, Bone Plating, Overgrowth, Taste of Blood, Ravenous Hunter, Attack Speed, and you can use the other two stat slots as you please. Now for items, you're gonna want to build Sunfire Aegis as your mythic, either Mercury Treads or Plated Steel Caps for your boots, Demonic Embrace, Zanya's Hourglass, Lichbane, and to top it off with either Morellonomicon for healing reduction, or Frozen Heart for some extra armor. With just a Sunfire Aegis, you're going to be able to deal enough damage with the Immolate damage, Fizz's innate damage, and Grasp of the Undying. Since Fizz does apply damage over time effect, it's very easy to constantly retain Grasp of the Undying. Demonic Embrace also benefits from this since Fizz will be dealing burning damage with it. If you choose to build Frozen Heart instead of Morellonomicon, then you'll gain a ton of ability haste alongside with some nice defensive stats. At the end of the day, this build will allow you to deal plenty of damage while also remaining slippery and tanky. Unfortunately, tank stats don't equate to weight in this game as you'll remain as nimble as ever while being nearly unkillable, which is, I guess it's a fortunate thing. Now, if you're gonna look for ways to play against these sorts of champions or just need help figuring out what to do, then we got you at ProGuides.com. There are coaches here that can help you wrap your head around all the crazy stuff that's popping up, so I suggest you guys check it out. Another throwback is with on-hit Neeko top. She too has made a return to the top lane with some new set of items. As expected, her runes are the same as before, but just a little bit as a refresher, we'll run you guys through both of them. For runes, run Press the Attack, Overheal, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Taste of Blood, and Ravenous Hunter. You will want to run Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a Situational Defensive rune for stats. Note that Ravenous Hunter is better than it was before because it provides Omnivamp. AD Neeko deals a healthy mix of both physical and magical damage, so this is definitely a better rune than before on her. For items, build Divine Sunderer, Berserker Greaves, Ginsu's Rageblade, Blade of the Ruined King, Wood's End, and Mortal Reminder. This is an excellent tank bursting build because you can just use Divine Sunderer alongside Blade of the Ruined King. Divine Sunderer also grants your falling purchases extra penetration, meaning that you'll be able to cut through some of your enemy's defensive stats. In regards to Ginsu's Rageblade, you'll want to buy it for the Phantom Hit passive. It'll allow you to utilize Blade of the Ruined King and Wit's End much more effectively, and you'll also be able to apply its own on-hit effect multiple times as well. As the game progresses, the immense amount of attack speed that you built will make you a capable team fighter as well as a split pusher. That's it for the top lane build, so take a look at the screen where we put them up for you again. Next, let's hop into the jungle. Starting off, let's talk about a reg side build. The mythic item that we notice popping up a lot is Prowler's Claw. This item grants a ton of lethality as well as more lethality as you finish legendary items. Also, you can use the active dash to close the distance and burst down enemies, knocking them up. A well-aimed burrow Q will provide you vision of your target, and then you can go ahead and proceed to tunnel towards them and activate Prowler's Claw to get that perfect unbarrow range. Prowler's Claw increases the damage that you deal to someone for the next 3 seconds, and this is plenty of time for you to use Rek'Sai's full combo on them. For runes, run Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Magical Footwear, Cosmic, and Attack Speed. Stat runes are Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Situational Defensive, usually armor. For items, build Prowler's Claw, either Mercury Treads or Plated Steel Caps, Black Cleaver, Serok's Gauge, Guardian Angel, and Chempunk Chainsword. If you manage to pull very far ahead, you can continue your snowball by building lethality items like Edge of Night, and then following it up with a Death Stance or Guardian Angel. Next up in the jungle is Rengar. First, let's run through its items and runes. For runes, you want to run Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Magical Footwear, and Cosmic Insight. You'll run Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Situational Defensive runes as your stats. Now for items, you want to build Gore Drinker, Mercury Treads or Plated Steel Caps, Ravenous Hydra, Death Stance, Serok's Gauge, and either Spirit Visage against AP Heavy, or Guardian's Angel against Intense Burst, or Chainsword for anti-heal. Remember to be like Rengar's nemesis Kha'Zix and just learn to adapt. Now the core reason this build is powerful is because of how much healing you get from it. Rengar already has an immense amount of healing from his W, which he can even cast twice if he needs to. You basically fight your way through death, and at the same time, you deal a ton of damage. Gourd Drinker will provide you with plenty of ability haste, which will work out perfectly since you want to lower the cooldown on your Q and W to maximize your effectiveness in fights. Once you get low, activate Gourd Drinker or your W to regain a large portion of your health and keep on fighting. Once you do manage to score takedowns, Triumph as well as Death Stance will provide you with a good amount of healing. That'll cover the jungle build, so take one more look at the screen for the recap as we'll be heading into the mid lane next. Now in the mid lane, let's start off by mentioning a Jace build that we found. There's a ton of creativity with the items, so we'll spend most of our time talking about them. First though, we want to tell you guys what the items and runes are. Also for summoner spells, most players are actually taking Teleport, but you can run Ignite if you need that extra damage for all-in fights, or because you need that early healing reduction. For runes, take Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Alacrity, Last Stand, Magical Footwear, and Biscuit Delivery. For stats, take Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a Situational Defensive rune. The items are Eclipse, Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Umbral Glaive, Sorelda's Grudge, which I'm still having trouble saying, Edge of Night, and Kempunk Chainsword. Eclipse actually works very well on Jace. Whether you're playing from a distance or getting up close and personal, Eclipse's passive effect works for whatever you're working towards. Whether you're in range or you like getting hammered, you can go ahead and use the bonus movement speed from the item to chase after your enemies, or instead make a speedy getaway. What's great about Eclipse is how flexibly it works whether you're playing it slow or gonna jump in for more aggressive fights. Sorelda's Grudge is an extremely powerful item on Jace as well. Not only does it provide an immense amount of armor penetration, it also provides a slow upon landing abilities. You can now slow with Jace's Q without building a Rallies, which I hope you weren't doing before. This is significantly less troll, and you'll be able to follow up after sniping an enemy from a distance with a 30% slow of the item, and then proceed to burst down your opponents. Our next mid lane pick is another AD mid laner. Ezreal is beginning to see a lot more play as a mid laner as well. You'll want to run Ignite usually, but you can go ahead and tech an Exhaust against Assassins or more difficult matchups. For runes, run Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Bloodline, Coup de Grace, Mana Flow Ban, and Transcendence. For stats, run Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a Situational Defensive rune. The items are Manamune, Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Divine Sunderer, Tiamat, Kempunk Chainsword, and finish the Ravenous Hydra, then wrap it all up with a Sorelda's Grudge. Like with Jace, the Sorelda's slow is absolutely insane. This will act similarly to how Iceborne Gauntlet did last season for Ezreal, but instead you get to build armor penetration as well. Ravenous Hydra works very well with Ezreal as each Q he throws will splash. You'll be able to clear waves more effectively with Ezreal and also deal more damage against clumped enemies as well. Divine Sunderer will be your mythic of choice because of how well Ezreal synergizes with Spellblade passives. You'll want to build one somewhere in nearly any Ezreal build, and accessing it will grant you extra penetration as you finish up your legendary items. Yet again, we have another AD mid laner for you guys, and this time it's Lucian. With the buffs to Kraken Slayer, players are hopping onto the burst damage train. Even in the mid lane, people are taking this marksman for a spin because of how much burst damage he can actually dish out. Combining Press Attack with Kraken Slayer, and you can almost instantly activate both with a single auto attack, ability cast, and a double auto from your passive. This alone will take out a huge and giant chunk of any squishy target's health bar. Even against tanks, the true damage Kraken Slayer provides will eventually allow Lucian to pierce through, given enough time. For runes, run Press the Attack, Presence of Mind, Bloodline, Coup de Grace, Magical Footwear, Biscuit Delivery, followed by Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a Situational Defensive rune. For items, build Kraken Slayer, Essence Reaver, Navori Quick Blades, Infinity Edge, Berserker Greaves, and Lord Dominic's Regards. The immense amount of crit in this build, paired with Essence Reaver and the Quick Blades, makes this build hit really hard. With your first three items, you're really looking at a very front-loaded build in terms of damage output. Essence Reaver Spellblade adds some extra burst damage to your Kraken Slayer and Press the Attack combo. Quick Blades allows you to quickly reset your cooldowns, and you can go ahead and do it all again as soon as possible. That's going to be it for the mid lane. Let's go ahead and recap those builds. Next up is the bottom lane. Kai'Sa is the very first champion that we'll be mentioning from the bottom lane. While we suggest taking Exhaust, you're still free to run heal in tough matchups, or if you think it'll be necessary for your dual lane. For runes, run Hail of Blades, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, Presence of Mind, and Bloodline. These runes still remain relevant in this new season, so at least something will be familiar to you guys. Stat runes are Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a Situational Defensive. The items are Duskblade of Drakthar, Berserker Greaves, the Collector, Nashor's Tooth, Rabadon's Deathcap, and Zanya's Hourglass or Morellonomicon if you need the anti-heal. With this build, you'll be able to access all three of Kai'Sa's ability upgrade. Although it may not seem efficient to go for lethality when you're not committing to a full AD build, if you're trying to break the minimum for the Q upgrade, these two items are quite valuable. Duskblade of Drakthar's stealth mechanic can create absolute chaos, especially in late game teamfights. If you're able to pop an enemy, then you can go ahead and stealth and reposition. On top of this, you still have your E stealth, which can really throw off your enemies. The Collector allows you to break that AD threshold and also makes it a little bit easier to get those resets. For the final items, you'll be building some AP with a combination of Gnasher's Tooth and Rabadon's. These two items should provide plenty of damage for you to work with. Combined with Berserker Greaves, Gnasher's Tooth should give you enough attack speed to break the attack speed threshold required to upgrade your E. Next up in the bot lane is again Lucian. Exhaust is also very good on Lucian. You're already a very self-sufficient carry, so you can go ahead and use Exhaust to help you 1v1 divers, or you can go ahead and use it aggressively when you've isolated an enemy carry in the middle of fights. For runes, run Press the Attack, Presence of Mind, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Magical Footwear, and Biscuit Delivery. For stats, you're going to want to run Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a Situational Defensive rune. Finally, the items that you'll build are Eclipse, Berserker Greaves, the Collector, Edge of Night, Yumu's Ghostblade, and Mortal Reminder, or any situation item that you might need. Eclipse will provide you with even more mobility, while also allowing you to gain bonus armor penetration as you finish more items up. This build as a whole allows you to jump in, burst down enemies, and then get on out. While the Collector might not seem like an excessively powerful item, it grants you both critical strike chance as well as lethality. The Execute can come in clutch, especially when you're using your ultimate to run away. Although you're opting into a lethality build, some form of critical strike chance is a great luxury to have. The difference between having no crit chance and opening up the possibility can really come in handy when the random number game plays out in your favor. Edge of Night is also a powerful purchase, as the spell shield will make it even harder to take down an already mobile marksman. With the nerfs to Eclipse's patch, especially for ranged champions, it's a little bit less appealing for Jhin. The long cooldown on it makes it a little bit harder for Jhin to use. Part of what made it so strong on him was that it allowed Jhin to access the bonus movement speed so frequently, keeping him safe and then allowing him to reposition with ease. Now that the cooldown on him is rather long, there's a new mythic item that offers a similar effect, Duskblade of Dragthar. We basically ran it back to a classic Jhin build, but the new Duskblade does allow you to potentially stealth after a takedown. For runes, run Dark Harvest, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, and Presence of Mind. The new Ravenous Hunter is so much stronger on Jhin because of the Omnivamp. With his damage being mostly physical, this change has definitely benefited him. For stats, run Double Adaptive Force followed by a Flex Defensive rune. For items, build Duskblade of Dragthar, Boots of Swiftness, Yumu's Ghostblade, Rapid Fire Cannon, the Collector, and either Mortal Reminder if you need the healing reduction, or Lord Dominic's for some extra armor pen. The Collector will assist you in picking up the takedowns, but overall this build just provides a plethora of stats that you can benefit from. There's damage, lethality, crit chance, and a little bit of attack speed in there too, meaning that you'll get a bunch of value from Jhin's passive. Of course, what you guys probably already know is that there's plenty of mobility in this build. Boots of Swiftness, Rapid Fire Cannon, and Yumu's Ghostblade will allow you to maintain a solid social distancing space away from your enemies as you chunk them for massive amounts of damage. That'll cover the bot lane build, so let's go ahead and wrap things up with the supports. Make sure you take a look at the screen one more time though, because we've got those builds up for you guys one last time. For support, we'll begin with Gragas. Gragas support is finally back, and with some more speed than before. The reason for this is because of Shirelia's Battle Song. An overlooked mythic item, it provides bonus movement speed and also grants subsequent purchases extra movement speed as well. A faster Gragas means that you're in for a rough time. Things typically hit harder when they're coming at you with more speed, but in the case of Gragas, it just means that you won't be getting away. You'll run either Ignite or Exhaust based on your preference, and of course based on what your lane partner is running as well. For runes, run Aftershock, Demolish, Conditioning, Unflinching, Magical Footwear, and Cosmic Insight. Cosmic is a very important rune, so don't overlook it. Summer Flash is paramount on Gragas as a character, so you want to make sure that it's off cooldown as often as possible. Stat runes are Double Adaptive Force with a situational defensive stat. Next up are items which are Shirelia's Battle Song, Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Zeke's Convergence, Zanya's Hourglass, and Knight's Vow. Ionian Boots are gonna also lower the cooldown of Flash, so you'll usually want to take these over defensive boots just as a playmaking potential. If you ever trade flashes with an enemy, the combination of Cosmic Insight and Boots will give you a small window to work off of. The other items, including Shirelia's Battle Song and Zeke's Convergence, empower you and your allies, making sure that any pick you make is a game-changing one. Next up, we got Maokai's support. Players have been cooking up more AP Maokai, and this build is honestly really disgusting. For runes, you want to take Aftershock, Font of Life, Bone Plating, Overgrowth, Perfect Timing, and Cosmic Insight. Run Adaptive Force and adapt your next two runes based off what you need. Items are things that get really spicy, so let's go ahead and talk about them. Build Imperial Mandate, Sorcerer's Shoes, Demonic Embrace, Zanya's Hourglass, and either Morello's or a Stirring Wardstone. Maokai brings loads of crowd control to the table. Usually whoever you lock down is who your allies are going to be hitting regardless. He's also able to tag multiple enemies with his abilities, meaning that you'll be able to deal maximum damage output from Imperial Mandate. Demonic's Embrace burn damage acts in the same way that Leandri's did last season, so this should be a pretty familiar feeling. Overall, this build deals a ton of damage, and Demonic Embrace provides some of the best defensive stats to work with as well. Unlike previous iterations, you're not going to be as squishy, but will still deal incredible amounts of damage with this build. With that all being said, we've concluded our support builds, and you can go ahead and take one final look on the screen. Thank you guys so much for watching, and like always, we really appreciate it. I suggest that you guys go ahead and check out our website, ProGuides.com, if you're really trying to improve this preseason. We have a ton of stuff for y'all there, but regardless, if you don't even check us out, it doesn't matter. We hope that you have a great one, and we'll catch you in our next video. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a wonderful holiday season, and peace.